Well, Australia's World Cup campaign is back on track after defeating Pakistan overnight in a thrilling game. Australia eventually winning by 62 runs. I'm Andrew Menzel. I'm joined today by Sharbul Corey from Crickblog. Sharbul, I know you've been up all night. We'll get into the details of the game, but it was a great contest. Lots of runs, some very good spin bowling from Adam Zampa. So it had a bit of everything.
Yeah, you summed it up pretty well there, Menace. Thanks for having me on. Lots of runs, lots of dot balls as well for Australia. But I think that Pakistan fed us a lot of some helpful stuff. Let's say that. And I thought along with Zampa, Hazelwood was outstanding with the ball, and Stoinis chipped in there as well. So overall, look, it's a good win. But I think there's still a few holes, there's still a few gaps in this Australian side that they've got to plug if they are to go far in this World Cup.
Yeah, most certainly. And we'll get into them. Fielding, still a misfiring middle order, and maybe some concern around Mitchell Stark's bowling. But let's go back to the toss. So Pakistan won the toss and they elected to bowl. A curious decision, but I guess, they probably, like a lot of teams, feared the dew factor, which actually reports are that the dew didn't come in really. Last night in Bengaluru. So curious decision from Pakistan, but then they dropped Shadab Khan, their leg spinner, and they brought in Usama Mir. And Charbul, he had a shocker. I mean,
he did. It was like village stuff. He took two very good catches later in the innings, but dropped that absolute sitter early on.
So Australia went in unchanged, the same team that they defeated Sri Lanka a few days ago. And David Warner, the catch you're talking about, he skied a ball to mid-on when he was just on 10. And Usama Mir underneath it, I don't often say this, Sharbul, but I think even I would have caught that.
And I would have caught it with my eyes closed, I think.
Yeah, and he dropped the dolly, and it
not
only
that,
cost...
Yes. Not only that, didn't get a hand to it either.
Yep. And it only cost Pakistan 153 runs.
So when you talk about, Pakistan winning the toss and bowling, I think, had that catch been taken, which it should have been taken, might have been a different game from there. You get Smith in, who's not in the best of form, and then Marnus takes his time to get settled and all that. So it's a very different game. But I think when you're going back to, the toss, Bengaluru is typically a chasing ground. It's very hard to defend there. And I think Pakistan, if they had Shadab Khan with the bat, that extra bit of depth, they could have, come a lot closer. But when you look at the IPL numbers, you score 200 at that ground, you're nowhere near safe in a T20 game. So I could understand Pakistan bowling first, but they just didn't bowl well at all, especially in those first 10, 15 overs. There was some really bad stuff there from them.
Yes, and there was a record-breaking day for Australia's openers. Mitchell Marsh and David Warner put on 259 for the first wicket. It was Mitchell Marsh's birthday, so what a birthday for him. A cavalcade of records. Eventually, Mitchell Marsh was dismissed for 121 when the score, I said, was at 259, but it was his second one-day international century to go with his 3 Test hundreds. David Warner made his 21st one-day international century and his overall 47th international ton for Australia. So that 259-run partnership is the second highest opening partnership in World Cup history. It's also the second highest partnership by an Australian pair at a World Cup, behind Steve Smith and David Warner's 260 against Afghanistan in the 2015 World Cup at the WACA. It's the 4th consecutive one-day international 100 for Australia against Pakistan. So I think for Warner against Pakistan. So I'm sure David Warner would want to take the Pakistan bowling attack around with him in his pocket, because you put those 4 ODI hundreds together. Also, you can cast your mind back to his dazzling triple century at the Adelaide Oval a few summers ago. It's the 5th 100 by David Warner at an ODI World Cup, the joint most for Australia alongside Ricky Ponting. Only 2 more have scored more than that. In the world. So Rohit Sharma has 7 and Sachin Tendulkar 6 World Cup hundreds. And it's David Warner's 3rd score above 150 in World Cups. And no other player has scored more than 1. So, I mean, a lot of fantastic records there by that pair. I mean, we'll start with David Warner. I thought, apart from that drop catch, he looked phenomenal. He was flicking the ball over the leg side. He was hitting the cover drive well. And he just looked in control the whole innings.
over mid wicket as well was
Yes.
real was really dominant in that region, and he loves that ground. So he's got experience there in the IPL, a wonderful record at that ground, playing in that tournament. So he knows that ground well. We needed him to deliver, and thanks to Osama Mir with that drop catch. But we needed Warner to deliver. He'd been a bit quiet so far in this World Cup, and I'm sure we'll talk about the middle order soon. But we need our top order to deliver in this team. And thankfully on this day, Marsh and Warner were able to deliver. Warner was outstanding. He's so fit, and he's always busy. When he's not hitting boundaries, he's rotating strikes. Probably an area Mitch Marsh could improve in. I thought, he played really nicely. They've had a lot of dot balls in the middle. So a couple of areas to improve there. But Warner, I think, outstanding. His proactivity and his ability to put pressure on the bowlers. Doesn't let them settle. So some of his shots over fine leg as well, against Harris Ralph in particular. Great to see. And look, if he fires, then Australia are going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, Harris Ralph had a bit of a shocker. 8 overs, 3 for 83.
I must say he bounced back well though, man. As his final figures, they look very expensive, but he was 65 or 4.1 overs at one stage, so he bounced back very well at the death.
Yeah,
it was looking ugly.
The Aussie batters enjoyed the pace coming onto the bat. So Mitchell Marsh made 121 off 108 with 10 fours and 9 sixes. A lot of sixes for Australia, the most they've ever hit in a one-day international innings. And when Marsh was out, as I said, the score was 259. Fantastic innings from Marsh, up the top of the order. And if we cast our mind forward, if Travis Head does come into this side, and he goes up to the top with Warner, then having Mitch Marsh at 3 does make Australia's balance look a bit better, and especially if he's in this kind of form.
It does, and you probably avoid that issue of Smith and Marnus there in the middle, where there's not a lot happening. I think when those two are together, it was always a concern heading into the World Cup, how those two, who are great players, but in the ODI format, how they would rotate strike, and they be proactive enough, quick enough, in their scoring. So, unfortunately, probably Marnus will squeeze out when Travis Head comes back. But that makes Australia's lineup look quite formidable. And we get Travis Head spin bowling there as well, which I think is another bonus too. So great innings by Marsh. Strike rotation in the middle. I know I'm sounding a bit harsh, but there was a lot of dot balls there in the middle.
Just not on those dot balls, and we'll get to it. But I do feel that Australia, and I feel stupid saying this when they scored 367, but I do feel like we were still a little bit conservative. Like I think if England or maybe even India were in the same situation, they would have pinned the ears back and gone for a massive score. So
should have got 400.
When Marsh was out, and it was the 34th over, and the score was 259. With 16 overs to go, you'd be expecting at least sort of 380 to 400 from there. And here's where things really started to get to me. So Pat Cummins does the right thing. He sends Glenn Maxwell out at the fall of the first wicket. Glenn Maxwell walks out there. The crowd's cheering RCB. It's an electric atmosphere. And then Maxwell's brain just shuts off for some reason.
Couldn't believe it.
Your first ball to Shaheen Afridi, he just tries to hit it. Actually, I don't know where he tried to hit it, Sharbel, because it was such a bad shot. I don't even think he could tell you where he was trying to hit it.
No,
and this is what annoys me. I don't mind if first ball you get a bad ball and you go, I want to put this away. But that was the sort of ball Maxwell should have just pushed into the covers, got off the mark, and just he had enough time just to assess the conditions for a little bit. Instead, the ball just went up in the air. Babar Azam takes the catch. Pakistan get 2 in 2. And it was a complete utter brain fade when the situation was set up for Maxi. Couple of overs to get yourself in and then go for it.
It reminded me of playing park cricket and grade cricket back in the day, where someone had to leave early to go to a wedding or something like that. So you just send him into bat, and then he's just got to go from first ball. But I was shocked he went first. You're right. He had time to just have a look at a couple. It was the last ball of the over as well, and Shaheen was one of their main threats. So if you can, stay in and just target some of the other bowlers who were bowling some loose stuff, Australia should have really got that 400, and it was an opportunity wasted.
And his words, Cummins confused me. So one ball before he sends Maxwell in, then he sends Smith out. Now, I think if you're sending Maxwell out, then you actually send Stoinis out next.
Stoinis. I was the same. Yeah, I was
You
surprised
sent
to see Smith
Inglis
walk
after
out after that.
Stoinis.
Yeah.
Maybe you send Cummins start, and you hold Smith and Labuschagne back.
Yeah. Yeah, they held Lebuschagne back, but it was surprising to see Smith come out at that point. I agree with you. I thought Stoinis would come in next, particularly when you consider that Warner was still going strong. And you send Maxwell in, so you may as well, keep going. But yeah, again, the middle order for Australia, it's an area to improve on. Let's be real. If we're going to win
Well,
this World Cup, there's a few things we've got to fix. We
absolutely.
really do.
David Warner said it was very disappointing that they only scored about 60 odd runs in the last
Oh,
10
that was
overs.
bad.
They
Horrible
lost 6
finish.
wickets.
Mm.
Yeah. And we'll get to Pakistan's chase, but they weren't that far off the mark. They only needed one of their players to go on and make a big 100, and Pakistan realistically could have chased it down. And those errors towards the end of Australia's innings could have been costly. And as you say, it was a good comeback for Pakistan. Shaheen Afridi finished with 10 overs, 5 for 54. And I was listening to the wrap up on the BBC this morning, and Carlos Brathwaite made a good point that Babar Azam did hold Shaheen Afridi back throughout that middle spell while Warner and Mitch Marsh were going hammer and tongs. And I wonder if he would have been better served trying to bring him back earlier and get a wicket.
Possibly. But I think at the same time, Pakistan had a good little period. I tweeted last night, between overs 18 and 28, Warner and Marsh only scored 48 runs in those 10 overs. So Babar Azam would have felt, okay, I can hold maybe Shaheen back a little bit more, keep him more for the death. We're just holding them here with the spinners. So, that little slowdown there's probably a reason why Baba left him back. But it's difficult as a captain. What do? Your other bowlers are not really delivering. How much do you go to your trump card in the middle, and how many overs do you leave for him at the death? Because he was outstanding in the death overs and brought things back. If you bowled him out too early, then who knows what Australia could have got, So it's you're playing with, it's a double-edged sword a little bit there for Baba. He needs the others in the attack, the likes of Haris Rauf and Hassan Ali, to deliver a little bit more.
I agree. So after Warner's 163 and Mitch Marsh's 121, the highest score was Stoinis with 21, and Josh Inglis was the only other player to get into double figures with 13. Actually, both Stoinis and Inglis look pretty good in their short stays at the crease, just not long enough. Shaheen Afridi 5 for 54, Haris Rauf 3 for 83. Charbel talked about him coming back nicely. Hassan Ali bowled pretty well, none for 57, just going at 7.1 and over. Usama Mir dropped a catch, 9 overs, 1 for 82, so conceded over 9 runs and over, was out for a third ball duck. A bit of a horror return for Usama Mir into the side. So that left Pakistan needing 368 for a win. And not forgetting that chased down 345 against Sri Lanka earlier in the tournament. So, it wasn't completely out of the realms of possibility. And when they got off to a brilliant start, the openers put on 134. I was a little bit nervous, Charbel. And, you put with that a couple of drop catches. Sean Abbott and Pat Cummins both dropped chances they should have taken. I thought Australia had the wobbles. Another
problem with the fielding. We were pretty good after that, but again, you're offering chances up front. So a couple of things, right? That's the third game in a row we haven't taken a wicket in the first power play. So in the first 10 overs, that's a problem. So South Africa put 100 stand, Bavuma and de Kock, or near that. Sri Lanka did, and Pakistan did as well. So we're going to need Mitchell Starc in particular with the new ball to deliver a little bit more than he is, and also the catching. So, I think Australia are starting too slowly with the ball. I know we won the game and we've won 2 in a row. We're back in the top 4, but the standards are high. And if you're going to win a World Cup, you got to fix these things.
And don't you think, Charbel, with the way we've set up our bowling attack with one spinner and the 3 quicks, you kind of need a couple of wickets with that new ball to set it up
100%.
for Zampa and the part-timers.
Yeah. And it's a credit to Zampa that he's been able to deliver what he has in the last couple of games after the opposition teams had a really good start. That's what's been so impressive. There was some question marks around his form.
Reports is very sick as well. Apparently,
and he's got back spasms and God knows what
running
else as well.
Running into pools and all sorts of stuff.
But the nature of our team is we have to play him. The nature of our squad, because we've only picked the one specialist spinner, along with Maxwell and Travis Head there when he returns. We have to play him, and he's delivering well for us. But that first power play, you need to deliver a little bit more, because if you're going to go far in the World Cup, you're going to have to take wickets up front, or at least be a little bit more efficient with your control. All right, we're leaking too many runs early. And the intensity in the field, I think, particularly in the South Africa and Sri Lanka games, were quite flat early. And then we got into the game. Against the top sides, you can't afford to be doing that. So it was a good win in the end for Australia, but there's still some things to improve on. Yeah, those drop catches, particularly the Abbott one, right on the boundary. It was Abdullah Shafiq, was a dangerous player. He had a lot of time to settle under and just dropped it. I think he was concerned with where the rope was, where his foot was, and shelled it. Pat Cummins, I think it was Imam ul Haq against Glenn Maxwell at mid-wicket. It was a pull shot just over his head at mid-wicket. By his standards, he should take it, and then took a really good one off Babar Azam later on. So good comeback, but we need to start better. Otherwise, we leave ourselves too much to do.
Yeah, and I do have concerns about Australia's fielding, and those are the sort of catches that when you get into sort of, if Australia do make it to the semi-finals, they can be the difference. And we've seen it so often in the past.
Sure, you can't field like that. You can't field like that against the top sides. You've got to get it right. And I was nervous as well when Iftikhar and Rizwan were going there towards the back end. Pakistan, I thought, were the favourites when those two were in. But Adam Zampa's spell outstanding. So big credit to him. He was brilliant.
Yeah, it just looks to me that Australia aren't actually doing enough fielding practice, because this has been it's been happening for a long time. And, when Justin Langer was the coach, he said there were two non-negotiables: high standard of fielding and being physically fit.
Definitely.
And it's now a player-led environment, and I'm not going to cast aspersions on their fitness, but they're certainly not fielding like Australian teams have fielded in the past. And I have said many times, I've got players on the record who've said a lot of the time fielding training is optional. So it can't be.
Your fieldings are non-negotiable. Your fielding can win your games, lose your games. That's
what was it? 5 catches against South Africa, 2 in this game. Just way too many. So Pakistan, they were 1 for 134 when Shafiq was out, and Marcus Stoinis got 2 crucial breakthroughs. He got both openers out. He hasn't scored any runs for about the last 10 years in one-day international cricket, but he has taken a couple of crucial wickets. Just on the openers, I just think Stark hasn't found his radar yet. He's not swinging that new ball. He's not even troubling the batters enough. And Cummins actually hasn't been bowling that well either. Hazelwood's been the one shining light, and that's no surprise. He's Mr. Consistent, but Cummins and Stark just haven't got into this tournament yet.
To be fair, Cummins has been pretty good the last couple of games. I'll include yesterday. I thought he had that chance off Abdullah Shafiq that should have been taken by Abbott. He set him up nicely. Cummins hit the deck well yesterday, and I thought he led the way nicely against Sri Lanka when we needed him to perform. But the issue I've got with Cummins is you're asking, for me, my opinion is, I'm probably going down a rabbit hole here. We're asking too much of him, personally.
Heard that before.
When you're running in and bowling quick, you don't want to be thinking about tactics when you're not bowling. You want to, settle down at the end of the over and sort of regather your thoughts and whatever it is. But when you're asked to captain, you got to be on the money the whole time mentally. We're asking a lot of him, right? But that's a conversation for another time, I guess. But I think that's a reason why he hasn't been at his best with the ball, even in Test cricket this year. He's got other things on his mind, which is understandable. We're asking a lot of him. Hazelwood's been solid. Yesterday, I thought he was excellent. His length was very good. Stark was leaking runs at one end, but Hazelwood kept it tight, and that was crucial in the early stages. Stark did swing the ball in the first few overs, but it was wayward down the leg side, lots of wides. So, as I said before,
I agree with you on Cummins.
Yeah, and as I said before, Stark in those early overs are going to be absolutely vital for us if we're going to, make a mark in this tournament.
So after the opening partnership of 134, then there was just a steady flow of wickets. There was lots of starts for Pakistan. Babar Azam made 18, Mohammad Rizwan 46, Saud Shakil 30, Iftikhar Ahmed 26, Mohammad Nawaz 14, but none of them was able to get the big score that would take Pakistan over the line. And I mentioned Stoinis getting a couple of big wickets, but Zampa through those middle overs was exceptional. He got Azam caught by Cummins at mid-wicket. He got Rizwan trapped in front, LBW. He then got Iftikhar Ahmed, LBW, who missed one and it was reviewed. And he got Mohammad Nawaz, good stumping by Josh Inglis for 14. 4 wickets for Zampa, the 2 to Stoinis, and then Cummins and Stark and Hazelwood helped sort of clean up the tail. And Pakistan were all out for 305 in the 46th over. So, you look at the run rate and everything, wickets in, if they'd kept their wickets in hand and just scored a little bit quicker through that sort of 30 to 40 over patch, maybe they could have actually challenged 368, which just shows, what good batting conditions it is in Bengaluru, and short boundaries, quick outfield, good pitch. That's why I felt Australia, and even though they scored 367, they might have left 50 out there.
Yeah, they did. I agree with you. It should have been 400 plus, and 367 on that wicket is, about 300 somewhere else, maybe, and that's being generous. It could be even less on another ground. That is a great batting wicket and a great bat. That ball flies over there. And we left a bit out there. I thought when Iftikhar and Rizwan were together, and Iftikhar was looking really good, hitting big sixes, I thought Pakistan were in a good position.
Agreed.
But the worry for them was their batting was a little bit short, so they didn't play Shadab Khan in this game. And now I could understand the logic behind leaving Shadab Khan out. He hasn't been bowling that well, but you haven't done Usama Mir a big favor there, picking him on that ground. You know what I mean? You haven't done him a big favor.
He hasn't done himself any favors either. He hasn't done himself any favors.
I agree, but I'm talking. I know, but I'm talking about from a bowling perspective.
I know.
I don't think Shadab Khan. Don't think Shadab Khan would have conceded a whole lot more than Usama Mir did, but Shadab Khan offers more with the bat, of course. So, interesting decision there from Pakistan. Another thing for Pakistan, I think they need Babar Azam to start owning these big games. He has a great record, but a lot of those runs are in bilateral games against teams that are not full strength. It's time now for him to deliver if they're going to do well.
It's set up for him. I mean, the openers did a
set
great
up for
job,
him. He's got to own these moments as the number one player in the rankings. And back to Australia, Adam Zampa, mate. He was, as I said before, doubts about his form, but his class shines through. He was at his absolute best yesterday. He was bowling He was bowling that perfect length, man. As it was, when he was, sort of off form a little bit, he was too full. A lot of step hits, but when he's bowling at his best, the length, it's very hard to get underneath the ball. His length is so good, and he's bowling straight. And that wicket of Iftikhar Ahmed was the one I think that gave Australia the real foothold in the game. And then he got Rizwan soon after in that great spell there at the end, and we didn't look back. So great to see Zampa bowling well.
I also thought Zampa's top spin had a bit more zip than we've seen in the first couple of games. He just seemed to have a bit more on the ball, and great for him. 2 good games in a row. So Australia win their second victory in a row. They're now into the top 4. So the top 4, you've got New Zealand with 4 wins out of 4 games. India the same, 4 wins out of 4 games in second spot, just behind New Zealand in net run rate. Then you've got South Africa in third spot, and now Australia have 4th spot ahead of Pakistan on net run rate. But you've got England looming on 2 points, and they've only played 3 games. So I think it's going to be a really exciting tussle for the top 4. You can sort of see that 3rd and 4th spot being wide open heading into the last couple of rounds.
Agree. And I thought that would be the case heading into the World Cup, where you probably get those 6 teams, England, Pakistan, Australia, New Zealand, India, and South Africa fighting for those 4 spots realistically. My views before the tournament is we'd sneak in. I think we've got enough quality to sneak in. Whether we can go all the way, I don't think so. But that was my thinking at the start of the tournament. But when we talk about fielding and we talk about these fine margins, when you've got a lot of teams that are fighting for those top 4 spots, you've got to take your chances when you can. But very pleased after those first 2 losses that we've won these 2 games. The next 3 were crucial because we've got Netherlands next. They're a good side. They're playing well, so you can't take them lightly. But if you win that, you go 3 wins, 2 losses. Then we have 2 vital games against New Zealand and England after that. And then finish with Afghanistan and Bangladesh. So I think from here, we win. How many games we have left? We've got 5.
Yes.
5 games left. I think 4 might get us in. So hopefully the guys, start peaking towards the semi-finals as well. That'll be ideal. Hit your best form in the semi-finals.
A couple of cheeky upsets from some of the lower ranked nations. Like
that's Netherlands what I'm saying. So you can't take these teams lightly. Certainly Afghanistan and Netherlands in particular are playing well. and that they can cause us problems. Bangladesh on their day can do something. You've got to be on your game, no doubt about it. But I think Australia have it in them to win at least 4 of those. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I'd be very nervous if Australia are chasing anything over 300 against Bangladesh or Afghanistan
Agree with their
their
spinners. Yeah.
spinners. All right,
Yep.
so Australia, they get the win. Now they play the Dutch on Wednesday night. I guess a lot of the talking points will be around whether Travis Head is fit and can come into the team against the Dutch. Maybe they'll feel like they can hold him back and just give him a couple more days to get his hand right. I don't think Australia will make any other changes to the team. I think they're sort of set with their 11. And although Stoinis is not scoring runs, I do think he offers a bit more than Cameron Green at the moment in that position of 6 or 7. And as I said before, I think Travis Head will come in for Marnus. You'll stick Head up at opening with Warner again. You'll put Mitch Marsh at 3. You have Smith at 4. And that looks like a nice balance for the back half of the tournament.
Agree with that. And agree with your point on Stoinis. I think he's offering more, particularly with the ball, ahead of Green. So they'll stick with him and Travis Head. And then we don't really have a whole other options to, particularly in the bowling department, the spin department.
Certainly not with the spinners. I think George Bailey forgot this World Cup was being played in India because it's a stunning oversight from our selection panel and coaches.
Unbelievable.
And it has really forced me into a corner where I think now you need separate white ball coaches, because there's no way a white ball head coach lets that happen if their job is on the line. I think this was complacent, it was lazy, and they took their eye off the ball. And we're seeing here, Zampa is struggling and he's doing a great job, but what if he gets worse? So we're going to bring in a spinner completely cold into the business end of the tournament. It borders on farcical.
Yeah, agree, mate. We need another spinner there. 2 specialist spinners at least in your squad, and then you've got the all-rounders there that can offer a job as well. Maxwell, to his credit's bowled well, but you need that another specialist option. And we played, for example, Matt Kunneman, very accurate left-arm spinner. We played him in ODIs last year in the subcontinent. Where is he?
Exactly. He should be in the squad. When Agar got injured, he should have been on the first plane over there. But on Glenn Maxwell, and last point before I let you go, we've got run over time, but I thought we saw the first team that identified Maxwell as a bit of a soft spot. He bowled 5 overs, conceded 40, went for 8 and over. And I thought Pakistan were the first team that went, okay, well, they've only got one spinner and then they've got Maxwell, target Maxwell. And it was tough conditions for him, but I think more teams are going to do that because they can't just let him while away.
Agree.
Anyway.
Yeah, 100%. If they take on Maxwell and teams are successful in doing that, it gives Pat Cummins and the guys a whole and a different problem, to deal with.
Exactly. Well, good news for this Saturday morning. Australia beat Pakistan, a thrilling match. They win by 62 runs. The player of the match was David Warner. What a birthday for Mitchell Marsh, scoring 121. Creditable performances to Adam Zampa with 4 for 53 with the ball. Stoinis with 2 for 40, took some important wickets, and Australia get the chocolates. Now, Charbel, thanks for joining me. Where can the listeners keep up with all your fine cricket work?
Yeah, you can follow me at Crickblog Podcast, and we post a lot of videos on Crickblog TV YouTube channel, so you can catch me there. We've got an episode coming out tonight on the World Cup so far. And also you can follow me at Crick_blog on Twitter, or X as it's called now. So you can catch me there.
Yeah, terrific stuff, Charbel. Always great to talk to you about cricket. So I'll be back on Monday. I'm recording a sort of a full podcast episode. James Baisley from Queensland is joining me again, and we're going to wrap up the World Cup and maybe take a bit of a deep dive into the domestic scene and the WBBL. So thanks, everybody, for listening to this episode of Cricket Unfiltered. Australia have 2 wins in a row.